Yes, Winston Marshall, everybody. Let's bring Winston Marshall up here and double D back. Winston Marshall, manager of Swag. How are you doing, buddy? feel free to add your 2 cents to anything. feel free.
Here's the thing. I honestly don't, and this just goes to show how hectic life has gotten. I'm very on top of what's going on with the faction. We actually have our first full faction meetup this afternoon. Otherwise, it's just kind of been checking in with the 2 matches, obviously coming up immediately. But like, I barely know what's going on with the captain stuff because Christian doesn't always tell us stuff. Like most of the time, he does tell us up front, but a lot of times we have to find out from watching a stereo show, and I can't listen to Christian all day. Not because I have anything against listening to Christian all day, but like I'm working. So like I get it. Like sometimes I'm like, cool, I'll listen, and sometimes I don't. So did he explain fully what the captains are supposed to do? Because all I know is that I was supposed to be looking for an assistant manager, but now I guess I have to assign somebody captainship. What is supposed to be their function? Because then I can answer this question pretty easily.
Last time I've heard is really someone they're going to elect captain. The role of the captain's still in the air, but there's
okay.
But for what we heard is potentially captains on teams, which would make sense because on a sports team you would have a captain,
Sure.
to roll. And for me, I think maybe the role won't be established. It's going to be the managers to establish that role because a captain can mean a lot of things. It could just be a role model as much as it can be someone who leads the studying groups. It can mean different things depending on who you elect. Just to let you know, I want Jay-Way to say his selection. I actually think in our choices that you missed, I selected Ace to be your captain, to be the yin to your yang.
Interesting.
As did I.
Interesting. That's
I
Double D. What was your pick?
I think Paul Oyama.
Okay.
I think he has. Ace knows a lot about Star Wars. I no doubt about that. Inner geekdom, obviously he knows stuff, but he needs to work on that. I think you need someone who knows the game overall, and I think Paul Oyama could actually do that. And I think that's a perfect fit for Paul Oyama.
That is why I need to know what the point of this is. If the point of it is how things are moving, then my answer is it is a co-captainship between Paul and Chandru. If the point of the captainship is to just be the face, then I would say that it's Ace. It depends on what we're talking about here, because that's why, without knowing, I really don't know. Like, I mean, I'm not going to give away the farm. I know I use that phrase a lot when people ask, but it is my left and right hand are Paul and Chandru. Like, period. Like, as far as making things move, they both have stepped up immensely, and they are so on top of it as far as like helping me organize things, figuring out study stuff, like et cetera, et cetera. The 2 of them have been completely invaluable. And it's part of it, like 1,000%. Why, like, if I feel like I'm getting a little overwhelmed because I have other things outside of the Schmoedown to take care of, one of the 2 of them is instantly like, yeah, no worries, I got it. Now, everybody in the faction last season did that. Everybody in the faction was like, yo, brother, do your thing. Or if they needed something, we all came together as a family, as a unit. And that's why I'm excited about this first meet and greet with the full faction, so we can reestablish that same, like, I don't plan on moving through the Schmoedown without a similar base, like without having that. The faces are different, but I want the same camaraderie, the same love and fellowship. And those that are not with us anymore, that are on other factions or have left the game or whatever, they are still a part of us no matter what. Like, if they ever need me or anybody on it, we're there for each other. So I'm very excited about that. But I to that point, I agree. If you're talking about the energy that Swag puts out, you would say 1,000% Ace if we're talking about who is the face of what's going on there. But if you're talking about like the full, like, okay, got it, and like a lot of the heavy lifting, I give it to those 2. And I wouldn't pick one. Christian would have to accept that they're co-captains because they both equally pull their weight in that regard. So that would be my answer.
Chandru would be my second choice, but if I had to choose one, I'd pick over one. It would be Paul, but I'm not going to. You obviously have a manager, so.
No, fair. No, but everybody's entitled to have their opinion. That's fine. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, it's not a big deal.
Yeah. well, speaking of Ace here, and I got a specific question here for you now.
Sure.
A lot of people were surprised that you picked Ace as late in the draft as you did.
Mhm.
Double D's over there, like I wasn't surprised. A lot of people were surprised. Now, I just was wondering, could you take us through your thought process going up to the draft, as far as not just Ace, but like your thought process as far as who you would pick and what rounds, and maybe hoping that Ace would still be there at that point, or maybe you had a little inside info that he would be. I don't know.
There's a couple things. There was a couple things going on at the same time. Some that I can talk about, some that I can't. The main thing is, and this is the biggest thing for anybody that's ever played fantasy football or done any sort of situation where you were in a draft situation, et cetera, et cetera. There's obviously the loyalty element of certain things that comes into play. But I think the biggest thing that you have to realize, especially, like, it'd be one thing if the stakes were this, if the stakes 1,000% were the same as they were last season, but they're not now. Now we're actually playing for like serious money, things like that. It always comes down to a value situation. So if you've done fantasy football before, it is not normal for quarterbacks to go in the first round. It doesn't make logical sense. You go for running backs. The reason why is like they a lot of times get hurt easier. They're not as there's only, you can only play one quarterback in most leagues, right? So that means that if you're in a 14-team league, only the top 14 quarterbacks really matter anyway, and only one or two of them are at some crazy elite level that you're like, they're untouchable. Like if you get them, they might go in the second or third round, right? The rest of them can fall whenever. Same with defenses, same with tight ends, et cetera, et cetera. So essentially what was going into it, in all honesty, the plan was, knowing how small the IG category is as far as players that are ready to take that next step. An IG player, especially an IG player that had utility, that like could play on a singles or teams, that like a dominant IG player, was always going to be our first round decision. And then what was going to be the second round decision was essentially going to be the loyalty pick, and that what we were going to do with Ace. Now, what I noticed happened immediately, because we thought that we may not even get Ace in the first round, that like I was watching how people were picking and watching the, like, you cannot, if all four of us are drafting, I can't read your mind, but I can pick up on patterns. And I started to see both A, what people were filling their slots with, and B, who they were taking. And I was like, oh, they are not following any sort of thing that would make logical sense in my mind. They're doing something completely different. And the fact that Ace didn't disappear in that first round, and didn't even in that little gap where Kate had two picks in between us, I was like, oh, they have devalued him, which is bullshit. Because I know that Ace can easily beat every single person in the Star Wars division. You give him the time and the resources that he needs. Ace has proven it already, and he can do it again. So knowing that, I realized that if they weren't going to put that, like, I know it sounds backwards to say this, to say then why wouldn't I take him immediately? If I know that they're going to think of him as an afterthought in a fucked up way, if that makes sense from a value standpoint, I was like, I'm going to take a risk here, because we need to make sure that from top to bottom we're polished. You know what I'm saying? It's already been made very clear that Star Wars, you're going to need two Ace, no pun intended, two Ace Star Wars players to survive this season, because we've already been told that there is going to be a larger Star Wars tournament where you will probably be putting up two players. So if I put myself in a position where, like, great, I grab Ace, but then all the other super high tier Star Wars players are gone, then I'm screwed. And so my mentality literally came from, if they're genuinely believing that Ace isn't like a top 5, if not higher Star Wars player, if that's genuinely where their mind's at right now, I can run the risk of maybe getting him later. In the same way that, like, you look at Aaron Rodgers in football and you go, I don't think Aaron Rodgers is cutting it close. Like, I think Aaron Rodgers is the best quarterback, right? But everybody else is like, I think he's outside the top 10, and he falls and he falls and he falls. It's one of those situations that you're not doing it as a personal thing, as a personal slight. You're doing it because I can go and get a super elite player in, like, because I believe before Ace I grabbed Vinny, if I'm not mistaken. So I can grab a Vinny and I know Ace is like it's going to be available. You know what I'm saying? It's not like people have to understand something. When I took Ace last season, Ace was my 10th pick. The order in which you get picked honestly doesn't mean shit. I didn't even ask on this. It doesn't mean shit because guess what? Adam Collins was picked up in free agency. He wasn't even drafted. So like miss me with this draft order stuff. That is all ego. That at the end of the day, that is all ego. And I know that sounds differently when you're the one being drafted, but it's 1,000%. At the end of the day, it's a matter of, like, as we've seen, your 10th round pick can be your most valuable player, period. Tom Brady didn't get drafted in the first round. Tom Brady was drafted in like the 5th. And he is the greatest quarterback of all time at this point. So it's a matter of what you do with it more than anything else.
It's a matter of like you don't draft necessarily the best players. You draft the players that you need as a missing link to the puzzle of your faction, right? So you can have this amazing person, but you see like already have another amazing person in that category. It will kind of clash and serve no purpose. But I have a weakness in Star Wars. Let's say I'm going to get someone else. No disrespect for that amazing person, but I don't need you. So that's the draft.
It's a number of things because again, think about it this way: Laura Kelly is 2 seconds away from a belt. She literally plays a number 1 contender match. She wins that, then she plays for the belt. She could literally be the champion within a month. So why would I if points are so important? Like she's automatically geared up to get anywhere from 4 to 11 points, if not more, to start off the gate. B, she's one of the absolute best Star Wars players that we've ever seen. And then C, again, looking at the Ace situation, Ace is also one of those players, but based off of what happened, we haven't even been told yet, like what they're like, where he's going to be placed up against, when he's going to match again. To know an automatic match, why don't you take it? On top of the fact, why do I just let Corruption automatically get what they want? You're just going to give them back a number 1 contender match. Like there's so much more at play here. And people that are saying that I was disrespecting Ace, understand that not only did I make sure to text him before it happened, as soon as I did get him back, the draft was over. I called him and I was like, hey, let me explain what's going on. It's not a personal shit at all. Like, I want to make sure that this squad rolls, and we needed two homies. Like, that's in order to work. We need, like, if people use that same logic with singles, you'd be like, let's say, who's a good example? Let's say with I don't know, my brain's not working. Let's say the Quirky Mercs, for example, didn't take Kevin Smith right away. Let's say that they had retained Mara instead, and Kevin Smith was there and all that kind of stuff. And let's say they took Mark Riley before they took Kevin Smith, but then eventually got Kevin Smith. That's from a standpoint of, if they knew that people may not try and go after Kevin Smith because it's like he's a celebrity, he only talks to Koi, whatever. Why would you then not take that out? If you know that you could get him in round 7 because people aren't going to touch him, but he's still valued at a round 1 player, why wouldn't you take all those other amazing players that are available that might not be there? That's risk. It's a risk. It is a risk. And it was yeah, go ahead.
That's what happened with. Sorry, I'm making sure because I know Dan wants to talk about that, but I have to say something for that. That's why Jericho got picked up, because I think Kaiser's holding him hostage for a trade, right? So I think he wanted to avoid being held hostage in order to have to do a move to get him back. That's why you kind of resign. Is if you really want that player, you might have to cough up big to have him, like Roxy will have to do for Jericho.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the case. If she ultimately wants to bring Jericho back onto the team, because it's clear that they have like a good relationship and whatnot, but she could be very excited, and it sounds like she is, about the 12 players that she has, and that's not a knock against Jericho at all. But then, like, what if she's super excited about someone she took in like the Twitter rounds of the draft, and now she like potentially has to sacrifice them for that? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you have no idea where things are. So, like, even people have been asking, like, oh, did he just do that to make Laura Kelly trade bait? Well, no. I personally were drafting people that I saw not only inherent value, but I believe in. I specifically put people on my team that I want to get to know better, that I want to be there to support, and that I believe in. I believe in every single person on my team, period. I don't care if you were signed beforehand or if you were the last person to draft. That's why people were asking, like, there were a lot of people that, weren't touched, and like, you took Frank Moran. Well, yeah, because Frank Moran, for what y'all don't know, Frank showed up to every single practice, whether he was involved or not. Frank was always there. Frank was always checking in on people. Frank was doing all that kind of stuff. That, again, is another one of those loyalty situations, and again, was a gamble. There's a possibility someone was paying attention to his match against James White, realized how lethal he actually is. He just needed another opportunity, and they could have stolen him from us. But I took the calculated risk that I think they're going to look at him being 0-1 in a play-in match, and they may not, they may not see that potential value there. That's why I was willing to take the risk about a little bit later. So it's a matter of risk assessment and loyalty. You can do both. And that's what my draft was. It was both.
Yeah, I was telling these fools for weeks that you were not going to let Ace go. So getting to the draft, continuing the conversation with the draft, what was your conversation with Eric Zipper like before you drafted him?
I didn't have one. I'll be honest. I didn't have one. It was.
Get your back.
I won't lie that like my first thought was to get him and then just to make him sit there, which would be so petty of me. But like the truth is, the truth is he's one of the best players in the Schmoedown period, and I think that it's just a situation that he needs to be given. Kaiser does some great stuff in the dungeon. He's molded champions before. He molded 2. You know what I'm saying? So like I give Kaiser all those props. I think that Eric just needs that kind of like support and belief in him, no matter where he goes. And who knows him better than me? Like, period. Out of everybody in the Schmoedown, like we've been friends since 2007. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's one of those situations that I would expect, that I can bring out the best in him. And that's my aim, is to help my friend get to that point. But, I have to deal with his attitude first, like, again, he's the one that dipped on me. So we'll see what happens.
Go ahead, sorry, Dean.
Okay, so my next question is the situation that happened at Spectacular was you had no margin of error. You need to get everything right and knockouts or TKOs or whatever. But Shannon really did. Obviously, Shannon and Roxy really double teamed on you, because first you had a match with Alex Damon and Ace, and if Ace won, if Alex won, then Corruption won the championship and all that mess. So my question is could Shannon just go, hey, Blondie, I know you don't like me, and I don't like you, but we have a chance here to really stick it to Winston. I know that you gave him that L earlier, he gave you that L, and I know you want to give it back to him. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to let Alex Damon be trained by Laura Kelly, because I know you know nothing about Star Wars. And you give me one of your and if you win, you might actually beat Finstock, because I know you want to kick his ass. But you won't hold it unless Adam Collins beats Dan Murrow. So you give me someone on your team to train Adam, not that he needs it, but I want to cover all my bases. And we go for there and we do a little quid pro quo. I knew you weren't as dumb as I claimed to say you were, because we're doing business with you. So my question is,
I was like, "There's a question there."
Yeah,
like,
I even wrote a comment. Double D, finish your question.
Really, quid pro quo actually happened between 2 managers.
As far as what? That is
someone, 2 managers working together to kind of filibuster another one.
I mean, I'll put it to you this way: in the same way that we always that how many times again have you seen, like, LeBron's on the Lakers, but like, yeah, he goes and balls with Kawhi. He goes and like hangs out with Dwayne Wade when he was still in the league. I know he just retired, like, even though they weren't on the same team. So yeah, it happens all the time. Like, people have to understand. Like, obviously, Christian might feel some way about me being on a Schmoedown show saying that but a lot of us are actually good friends outside of this. So I may on camera be like, "I'll fuck you up," but like outside of it, be like, "Yo, you want this shot?" Like, it's totally fine. And so I think that's the big thing that people don't realize, is that people like have been in the same households and been on opposite factions. People have been, like in like friends forever and on opposite factions, and you're still in contact. So if Laura and Alex were training together, that wouldn't surprise me at all. If like Laura and Molly and Alex were all training together, you know what I'm saying? Like it's one of those things, depending on what it is. Maybe you hold some cards closer to the chest. So like, I don't think that there's a lot of room because there's such a finite number of movies for Star Wars. I don't think that that's as big of a deal to have Star Wars competitors train with each other. I also don't think it's as big of a deal to necessarily have like IG and singles, but maybe you're not openly admitting if like Chandru was training with like Brandon Hanna on opposing factions, maybe they don't let each other know, ooh, like, you know, this particular wheel slice would really fuck me over. Like you don't do that, but you still might like have like a friendly scrimmage or practice together because you're homies. You know what I'm saying? So like it just purely depends on what you're talking about.
Okay.
Now, going back a bit on Star Wars, we talked about this a bit, but there's one aspect I want to really push on is the fact that Star Wars was fun to watch, but this year it kind of feels like it's its own different beast. There's something in the air that really makes it feel like it's going to be a whole different entire type of game, right? Am I alone in feeling this? And if I'm not, what do you feel? Like, how is it different?
Again, you're not going to get like look at what IG's been this entire time. You're not going to get away with just having one ace in the hole, no pun intended. In IG, you're not going to have that in Star Wars either. You need to have a multitude of people that can step up to the plate for a number of reasons. It could be something as simple as Ace just booked a gig on a film and Ace is out for the next 6 months. And he's like, I'm sorry, I could do a match, but I can't study. You know what I'm saying? Then all of a sudden that becomes a thing. And so it's a good thing that you have someone as equally as capable of kicking ass. So it's the same thing. I don't see Chandru losing this belt. So then I need, you know, Jen Kemp. I need Eric Zipper. I need them to step up, and I need Ace to step up in IG and handle business because I'm going to have to put 2 people in the tournament. You know what I'm saying? Like you need to have backups to your backups. And the funny thing is, if you can put yourself in a position, like this is why the dream team, when you think about like the 92 basketball, like Olympic team, the people that were coming off the bench off of that team were also cats that were all stars that were like championship caliber fucking players. You know what I'm saying? Like it's a matter of everybody is all 99s on Madden and they can all do work. You're just making a decision about who's going in first and understanding that is when you're a team, when you're a unit, that none of that has to do with anything personal whatsoever. You're making certain decisions. Maybe I'm putting up so-and-so first because I'm looking at the field that they might play against and they've got this record, so they're going to get a better seeding. You know what I'm saying? Like maybe like you put in like Jen over Ace at the starting point of an IG tournament because Jen is, I believe, 1-1 and Ace is 0-1. You know what I'm saying? So better seeding. Like again, I think the thing that people don't do, knowing that this is a sport, you're not taking more factors into consideration other than just skill or relationship, because you also don't really know people's relationships other than what you see from us on camera. Like there's so many different layers to this that I think people do not pay attention to, that if they did, they might understand. Like I can't stress enough. It's not my team, so I can't go super deep into it. But the one thing that I do know with Stacy last year, people were giving Roxy a lot of shit for not putting Stacy in the tournament. Well, Stacy is a very hardworking, busy person. She didn't have, like, to what I've been told, she didn't have time for an entire tournament. She could do matches here and there, but those tournaments were hard. You won a match or immediately assign a new match the next week. That's a lot of work. That not just to find scheduling time to be in a match, but to prepare yourself to play in said match. So like people don't take schedules into consideration. They go, how could so-and-so fall so far? Well, maybe a manager or two talked to them and found out, like, real talk, I can probably play once every 3 months. So yeah, exactly. Karl Malone said it himself. I don't care if you call me last. I got the call. Peggy, this is the part of me that's really sad that you're not on Swag this year, because I would love to have these conversations with you all the time.
Yes, sir. We got like 1 more minute here left in the show.
Sorry.
No, you're cool. I would like you to settle something for us, if you don't mind. Real quick, though, before I do that, anyone watching right now, please subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Share us, help us out, help us grow here. Also, real quick, we have 3 of your players coming on here within the next 3 weeks, Winston.
Wow.
We got Chandru and Laura Kelly and Ace coming on this month.
Amazing.
So yeah, it's going to be great. But we were talking about this last week, and Frenchie and I especially don't agree. Doug Benson. Now he was a rookie last season, but he didn't get to compete.
Right.
Is he still a rookie since he was actually? Because my argument is that even though he didn't play, last year was his rookie season, and you don't get 2 rookie seasons.
But Jay, you annoy the shit out of me. Jay, come on. Look, Jay, okay, we went over this. If you got a rookie drafted in the sports team, but he got injured and he didn't play his match, technically in the other season after, the time he actually goes on ice and has his first game, that's considered his rookie season.
Yeah,
so you can't say that.
I want to talk about American sports here in reality.
Hockey is American sport.
That's the thing, though. To my knowledge, I don't think that there's ever been a situation you can technically get comeback play, and that I think was the argument as to why Ace was not in contention for Rookie of the Year, because he kind of had a one weird 3-person on a team match seasons ago, but they still counted it. They still counted it as a thing. So here's the thing: no, your rookie season is not the season that you first put on the cleats. The rookie season is the first time you were signed to a team. Period. So Doug Benson, he wasted his Rookie of the Year opportunity, but that doesn't mean he can't be Comeback Player of the Year, because he would be technically coming back. So in the same way that, like, in this sport, the biggest injury, honestly, is time. Flick me off all you want.
I'm doing the Jay Wade. I'm doing the Jay Wade. Jay Wade's like,
I was like, Canadians out here saying they so friendly, and you got a little bit of attitude to y'all.
I'm looking at him in the camera.
No.
Out at him like, I got you.
Yeah, like and never would I dare to say fuck. Man, you never know, but you haven't pissed me out enough. And this is not the first time we talked together, so but no, because he annoys the shit out of me sometimes. But I really don't agree with what you said, in the sense that for me, the rookie years when you have your first match, you can be signed, but if you don't have a match at all.
So here's the answer to your question. Here's the simple answer. Doug Benson could have been signed. If you were allowed to be signed, you were not a rookie, period. Rookies are people that have never participated in the Schmoedown, period. That was the rule. And so Doug Benson was allowed to be approached and signed if someone wanted to, but obviously that was not something you were going to go after. Both A, celebrities, it's harder to convince them, and B, you know what I'm saying? Like, you already kind of knew, like, all right, well, he has a connection with Sam, so that might be an automatic, like, whatever. So that's the answer to that question, to be honest with you.
All right, Jay Wade, don't get used to this. You're right. It's okay.
That was my question last week, because I really wasn't sure, and I was of 2 minds of it. And I could see both arguments, but it's like, I really don't know. And one is a traditional sport, but again, he's not a rookie because he's already in the Schmoedown. So I posed the question to these guys because they know more about sports than I do.
Let me ask.
I don't know what, and they were.
Let me ask, because I will admit that, like, I'm doing better about my Schmoedown history, and I go back and watch, but there's a lot that I don't necessarily see. Has Thad Williams ever played a match?
2. He played. I think it was technically 3.
That's fine. The fact that he played any, it makes my question null and void, because that was another example. I knew he was commissioner. I knew that. But I was saying that, like, if he hadn't played one, he was someone we were allowed to approach. I was just going to use him as another example, but if he's played matches, it doesn't matter and it's not important.
I see.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for letting me down, Winston, and making this guy right.
Thank you. The very last thing, I'm going to put you on the spot, Winston. I'm sorry, but I have to, because I have to here. When are you going to come back on Go Get That Rose, dude?
That's true. There's been a lot of shit going on.
What is going on, bro?
There's been a lot of shit going on. The biggest, it's out of control. I'll be honest. The biggest thing, and I apologize that it's taken me so long to get on another one of your shows, Jay Wade. I just have been so busy, and now with this new job I have, it has been even worse. But when do you film again?
Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern time.
Okay, so at this point, the problem is I go into work nowadays at 8 a.m. and I leave at like 9 p.m.
Those are bad hours.
It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. So if I find myself one of these Wednesdays with stuff clearing up some, then dope. And if not, then because like a lot of times what I can do, I'm still at work, but then like my priority becomes cool. Let's run a Schmoedown practice while I'm like logging data. You know what I'm saying? So like I got to put my priorities currently.
Oh, I feel you.
In this job, it was an 8-week job, so I got 5 weeks left. So by then, I think the Bachelor's over, but we'll see what happens.
Well, you were the inspiration for that show, so of course I'm forever going to be trying to get you back on there.
Of course.
But yeah,
one episode and never again. That's I don't get people who like it. It's not a thing in Canada. It's not very well popular. And because of this guy, I'm like, oh, I kept going on the show just to support him, but didn't know what the fuck he was talking about. Then I'll go watch an episode, and like 30 minutes in, I'm like, Mike IQ is dropping by the fucking second.
Yeah, but that's what trash TV is for, though. It's for IQ droppage, so you can for like half a second you go, no, I don't gotta worry.
Oh.
Yeah. Anyway, I took us way off track there. Winston Marshall, thank you very much for stopping by. Really appreciate it. You had a really good draft. You got a good season ahead of you, I think, especially with Laura Kelly, man. I'm a big fan of hers. So.
Every single person on our team is a killer, is an absolute killer. And from everything that I've garnered just from the few texts we've been able to send before this meet and greet, there also seems like to be some of the funnest people that can possibly like come together. So I cannot wait to see what Swag does this season. Like we've even I don't want to ruin the surprise, but we have a surprise for y'all pretty early on as well. So I'm looking forward to that too. With that, much love to everybody. You can find me at the Swaggy Blurred right here. There's my thing on all the socials. And much love to y'all.
Yes, sir. Winston Marshall, everyone, manager of Swag, Drip Drip. You want to hear something funny? The mic wasn't on that whole time.
No way.
Yeah, for real.
Oh, wow.
So smooth.